So there is an article on a website called dvait.org talking about connection of Buddhism and antinatalism. Before we look into the actual article, let's have a look at the name of the website itself. It is called Dvait. Dvait Vedanta, which it refers to, is one of the many philosophies or one of the many schools of philosophies in Hinduism. Dvait means dual. So dualism is the idea that God is a different entity than rest of the things in the world, like soul and matter and so on. This is in contrast with Advait Vedanta, another school of philosophy in Hinduism, which says that God and soul and matter, everything is one, just manifests differently. Anyway, the article talks about the connection of Buddhism and antinatalism. The title is Unveiling Buddhist Stance Is Buddhism Antinatalist? The central idea of Buddhism and also Hinduism, there are a lot of similarities between these two religions. On a very high level, is that this world that we are living in is not a good place to be in because there is a lot of suffering here. We are caught in this world in the cycle of births and rebirths. So even if we die, we don't leave this world, we are reborn as some other being. And so, because this is not a good place, we should strive our liberation, we should strive to break this cycle and get liberated out of it. This goal of liberation is prescribed to every individual by these religions. That is good, but what has this to do with antinatalism? There are 3 points on which these religions touch on antinatalism. One is the recognition that this world is not a good place to be in is also the first step of modern day antinatalism. Secondly, according to these religions, the root cause of why you're caught into this cycle of birth and rebirth is the desires towards worldly materialistic things that you have and the attachment that you have towards these desires, including the desire to have children, the desire to procreate. And if you want to get liberated from this cycle, according to these religions, you need to detach yourselves from desires, including that desire to have children. So you don't have children if you want to get liberated, or at least if you want to be on the path of liberation as per these religions. This is where the second point where these religions touch upon antinatalism. But they don't go full antinatalistic. They don't say that everybody should just stop having kids. The cycle of birth and rebirth has some logic in it, or at least as per them, there is some logic in it. Once I die, I am reborn. What sort of life I'm going to get after my rebirth is dictated by what sort of deeds I do in this present life. This is also called karma. Karma actually just means actions or maybe duties sometimes, but it has evolved to mean consequences of one's actions as well. So this karmic logic dictates what sort of life I'm going to get in the next time when I'm reborn. So if I'm doing good deeds in this life, I'm going to get a good life. If I'm doing bad deeds, if I'm doing some sins, I'm going to get a bad life. I'm going to get a life of more suffering the next time. Every individual being, according to these religions, is traveling on a journey in this cycle of birth and rebirths. It's their own journey that they are traveling through. But it is also thought as a good deed, as a compassionate deed to help other beings to progress in their own journeys of this birth and rebirths. So now I have to make a decision whether to detach myself from all the desires, including the desire to procreate and not have any kids and be on the path of liberation, or to have some children and help those beings progress in their journey of births and rebirths. That is why these religions don't go full on antinatalist. One of the many solutions that they provide is the way they prescribe structure of the societies. Broadly, they divide the society into two different classes. One is the ordinary people like us, and for them, according to this article, the correct way is the middle way, which is mindful family planning. So the idea is don't have many children, don't have children at your will, just have children of whom you can take well care of. And the other class of people are the nuns and monks and sadhus and rishis, for which it is prescribed they follow stricter rules, they are on the path of liberation themselves, and in a grander sense, they have the responsibility of ensuring that rest of the Buddhist or Hindu society is also on the path of ethics and ethical path of liberation. So this is the third point where these religions touch on antinatalism. This divide is similar to Catholicism in the sense that Catholic priests and nuns also are celibate. They don't have children for the well-being of the grander or greater Catholic society. The difference is that Catholic society, whether it is ordinary Catholic people or whether it is priests and nuns, they are staunchly opposed to family planning. Whereas Buddhist society, or at least in this article, family planning is promoted. I personally don't believe in all of these things, but it is always good to know different points of view.